I gotta go into Maddie.
Come back to bed. It's so early.
I can make a skyscraper, but you're going back to him.
I'm not, though.
You were hurt and you went to him. You cried on him.
That's really not what happened, Nate. That's not what happened.
With Sean fast asleep and snoring, Alex stays wide awake, quietly waiting for the right moment to set her plan in motion. She slips into Maddie's room, lifts the little girl onto her shoulder, and carefully makes her way out, dodging broken glass on the floor. It doesn't take long before she's driving out of the compound, but Sean spots her and yells at the top of his lungs, ordering her to stop, yet she keeps going.
Hey, where are you going?
The calls start pouring in, but she ignores them and drives to a friend's place, hoping to crash there. Ethan warns her that Sean is already on his way, so without a word, she heads back out. She uses her last bit of cash to fuel the car and drives as far as she can. With no place to go, she and Maddie spend the night parked by the roadside. At dawn, an officer knocks on the window and wakes her up, advising her to go to social welfare.
Or you can go to social services.
Okay.
She listens and heads there, but the woman she meets is tough and direct. When asked, Alex explains that Sean drinks and gets very aggressive. He hasn't hit her, but after what happened, she's had enough. It's not the kind of case the woman usually handles. Alex admits she's not being abused, not officially homeless, and she has living parents. She just doesn't want to go back. The woman says her hands are tied.
Last night was different and I got scared.
But refers her to a housekeeping agency, Value Maids, and even calls them on her behalf. With the interview coming up, she needs someone to watch Maddie. She tries Paula's place but finds no one there, then drives around to several campgrounds until she spots her mother painting by an RV. The conversation is cold and a little tense, but Alex cuts to the point. She just needs help with the kid, and her mom agrees.
Can you watch Maddie for an hour? I have a job interview. It'll be 1 hour, 2 max.
Her final stop is Yolanda's office, the head of the agency. The job briefing is straight to the point. The pay is far less than she hoped, but there's one small comfort. She'll at least have a valid payslip so she can make some applications. There's already a shift lined up for her at Fisher Island, so she has to leave right away, even though she'd made a deal to return for Maddie in a few hours. But on the call, Paula talks over her and barely listens, though she doesn't mind watching the child, especially with how easily the two slip into painting together. She gets to the island with no cell reception, unpacks quickly, and is just about to settle in when Regina, the apartment owner, points out the lateness and asks to reschedule. She pleads to knock it out fast, then gets to work, but somewhere along the way, she blacks out due to hunger and wakes to a hand tapping her face. When she insists she's okay and nearly done, she gets pointed to the patio furniture. More work still waiting. She finishes eventually, and once she's off the island, her phone catches a signal again, with dozens of missed calls popping up. Alarmed, she races back to the campground where her mom, rambling as usual, and Basil both inform her they got tired of watching the kid and called Sean to come get her.
Got tired, so we called Sean to come get her.
Furious, she drives straight there and finds the girl sleeping peacefully. He asks her to stay a while, and even when she agrees, her mind drifts back to the screaming, the shattered walls, and everything he's hurled in her direction. He hands her a meal and starts questioning her judgment, especially about leaving their child with Paula. Her decision to take a job also rubs him wrong, since in his mind, no one's left to look after Maddie. The mood shifts, and he starts getting louder again, which is exactly why she left in the first place. She scoops the girl up while he yells, then quiets down, then reminds her she's not capable of doing this alone. But she walks out anyway, determined to figure it out.
Where you gonna go? Hey, you can't steal my kid!
Somewhere on the road to nowhere, Yolanda calls. Regina had complained about the cleaning job, so she's needed back immediately. Around the same time, Maddie tosses her toy out the window. When she stops to grab it, a motorist slams into her car, triggering a police call. She's fined for illegal parking, and her car gets impounded. Left with no choice, she calls her father. During the ride, he mentions how much he'd love to see the little girl more often, then gently scolds her for being reckless, and even compares her behavior to Paula's. When she learns she can't crash at his place, she asks to be dropped at the ferry station instead, where she and her daughter spend the night.
Would you mind just dropping us at the ferry station and I'll have my friend pick us up?
Nate, the same guy from the bar the night she first noticed Sean, calls out to her and wakes her up at the ferry station, surprised to find her there that early, curled up with a few belongings at her side. She brushes it off and doesn't say much, but he sees through it, and even when she keeps turning down his offer to at least grab breakfast, he doesn't back down until she lets him help. In his car, while they drive, he casually mentions that he's recently divorced, then brings up a few things he apparently said the first time they spoke. though she doesn't remember any of it, because her eyes had been glued to Sean that night instead of paying him any attention. He drops her and the little one off at Yolanda's office, offering again to send help if she ever needs it. And once she gets inside, Yolanda doesn't waste time breaking the news that because she didn't return to finish the job at Regina's, she's forfeited the pay. Her explanation, even with strong points, doesn't change anything since the rule is the rule. She drops off the Dyson and the rest of the items, then walks out and finally answers the unknown number that's been ringing non-stop. It's Sean's attorney, and she's being summoned to family court, likely about to lose custody. Back at social welfare, trying hard to lock down a place to stay, the woman helping her points out that abuse includes intimidation and control, and urges her to report it even if she's unsure, just so there's something on record. She doesn't buy into it fully, but agrees anyway, because keeping Maddie is all that matters. Denise steps in and gets them into a confidential temporary shelter where she's given a small condo to herself and access to free meals. While settling in, she meets Danielle, a neighbor who shows up with clothes and even does her makeup to prepare her for the court hearing. When the day comes, she's thrown off by the sight of Sean's entire family in attendance and questions how he suddenly has money for a top attorney when they could barely eat before. Inside the courtroom, she struggles to make sense of anything being said, and with no home, no job, no abuse report, and a recent car accident all on record, the judge gives Sean custody for the next 7 days with another hearing to follow.
You have 7 days until the temporary custody hearing.
Back at the shelter that evening, she's quiet and drained, but Danielle lifts her spirits in her own strange way, telling her to put that anger to use. When she mentions how Regina never paid, the neighbor jumps at the idea and drives them both to Fisher's Island to do something about it. They get into the house, now up for sale, by pretending to be buyers and friends of the seller, though Danielle clearly has her own plan. She's looking for items that match the value of the unpaid work. She doesn't find much, but ends up taking the woman's dog instead. That crosses a line, so Alex insists they call Regina to come get it back, and while they wait, Danielle keeps dodging calls from her son's father. She clearly still has feelings for him, no matter what he's done. When the woman arrives and sees her dog, she starts by thanking them for keeping it safe. But the tone shifts when she realizes it was stolen, and she threatens to call the police. Alex doesn't care, though, and tells her exactly how her refusal to pay caused her to lose both her daughter and her car. Regina says nothing and just walks away. Danielle drives her to Sean's place so she can keep her word and check on the little one, but his mother answers the door and says the child is asleep and fine before shutting her out. She goes back to the shelter with nothing, but the next morning, there's a win as Regina has paid up at last. She heads to tell her neighbor the good news, but finds she's already gone back to her ex. Denise confirms it's the 3rd time she's tried to leave him without following through. Later, back in her room, she talks to Maddie's toy ponies, saying how the pregnancy changed everything, and how the second she said she wouldn't get it terminated, Sean flipped, shouted that she was ruining his life, and from that day on, he never forgave her, leaving her scared of him every single day. After wrapping up the parenting class she'd enrolled in for Maddie's sake, the young mom tags along with Denise to meet an estate attorney, who lays it out plainly that she'll need to fill out the right forms, land a paying job that counts on paper, secure proper housing, and get someone willing to testify about Sean's abuse. She asks her mom to help move her things into a new place, but Paula shuts it down almost instantly, warning her not to walk out on a man she still insists is decent. Luckily, Yolanda finds her another shift, this time for a move-out cleaning job, and pairs her with Kiara. They get to the house, and the stench hits like sewage, but there's no turning back. She gets to work scrubbing through a wrecked kitchen and a toilet that nearly makes her gag, while Kiara barely lifts a finger, pacing the room and murmuring into her phone. She nearly quits halfway but powers through. On the bus ride back, she spots Sean through the window downing shots at a bar, so she jumps off at the next stop and walks in. Her tone stays calm but pointed as she asks why he's fighting for custody if he's just going to dump their daughter on Doreen. He claims he's working on himself and insists Maddie isn't safe with her, which is why he stepped in.
I don't understand why the fuck you're gonna take her away from me if you're not gonna spend any time with her.
You are an emergency.
Later, she calls Doreen, hoping to see the child, but Maddie's already asleep. So the older woman just turns the camera so she can watch her sleep for a moment before hanging up. While Paula keeps rambling on about her solo show, the daughter moves forward, filing every form from the attorney's checklist. Then she checks out the subsidized unit she's meant to move into, and is clearly disappointed by the state of it, but her mom promises they'll fix it up together, though she expects help gathering artwork for her exhibit in return. They stop by Larry's to collect old belongings, but Paula's mood sours once she sees how well he's moved on. Things she thought would carry emotional weight are shoved in a dusty barn, and that stings. Her daughter helps smooth it over as they head out, though in the car, the mother barely glances at the witness form she's supposed to sign, choosing instead to talk nonstop about how great a mom she is and how Sean is the real issue. She brushes off the idea of emotional abuse by saying she's seen worse and doesn't think it even counts. They drop off artwork at Faye's gallery next, but while the daughter tries to clear up a misunderstanding, Paula talks over everyone again. It takes Alex finally raising her voice to cut through, and that's when Faye clarifies that there was never a job offer. Crushed, she walks off quietly, and her daughter follows behind. Once the move-in is done, Paula and Basil suggest dinner, and by the end of the meal, they joke about the lady in distress picking up the tab. She reminds them they invited her, and she doesn't even have money. It starts off light, but when Paula insists she should still pay, things shift. She fires back, calling her mother a failure. Paula hits right back, dragging her custody case into it. Furious, the daughter storms off,
And me, so I thought that you were gonna pay.
I never lost custody of you.
leaving the form still unsigned. The next morning, Ethan calls to say Sean hasn't shown up to work. Alarmed, she reaches out to Doreen, who says he hasn't been home in 2 days either. That's enough to set her off searching, and she eventually finds him slumped over drunk at their old beach hangout. He says he's spiraling and can't accept that she stopped loving him, but begs for a chance to get better. She just wants him present for Maddie, so she helps him up and drives him home. Before heading out, she kisses her daughter goodbye, and Doreen coldly mentions that her son acts just like her father. On the hearing day, Sean meets her outside and thanks her for helping him get back on his feet the previous day. He offers shared custody because he knows he can't raise Maddie alone and doesn't want his mother living with them either. She agrees on the spot, relieved to finally settle.
But if we're gonna do this, it's shared custody.
Later, when they arrive at the new place, they find that Paula has already painted Maddie's room, and for once, there's real happiness between them. Alex spends some good time with her daughter, and before their visit ends, decides to take her on a quick shopping run. Nate, who's always been around, offers her his car to make things easier. Just before handing over the keys, he casually invites her for Thanksgiving, just in case she has no plans. She turns him down, blaming her unpredictable schedule, but that's when he admits he's actually asking her out. She freezes, then offers to return the keys immediately. She makes it clear she doesn't want to accept favors that might come with strings and says she's not in a place for any relationship. Nate takes it in stride, apologizes, and hands her the keys anyway. At the mall, cash is tight, so she keeps things minimal, picking out only a few items, far less than she'd hoped to buy. It's Sean's turn with Maddie, so they meet up. He doesn't say much, and when she tries to be cordial, he just mutters that he's tired from working late. She doesn't buy it, and assumes he's been drinking again, but he insists he hasn't. He asks if she has Thanksgiving plans and offers to let her join them, but she'd rather be alone. She kisses her little girl goodbye, then walks away. Her first shift for the day takes her to a chatty client who won't stop sharing stories while she scrubs. It turns out to be a lucky visit, though, as the woman gives her some leftover food she plans to donate to shelters. Later, she's back at Regina's place, and this time meets James, his husband. She thanks the homeowner again for the gesture the last time, then asks for the Wi-Fi password so she can stay reachable in case Maddie needs her. Spotting how much work the house still needs, Alex asks if she can come back the next day to finish up. Regina's surprised that anyone would volunteer to clean on Thanksgiving, but her guest says she doesn't mind. She's got no other plans anyway. Back at her place, trying to write feels impossible, so she gives a dating app a shot, but the profile feels worse than the last, including Sean's. Thanksgiving morning rolls in, and she leaves a voice message for her mom, then tries FaceTiming Maddie, but Sean cuts it short, saying they're heading out. Alone again, she scrolls back through the dating app out of boredom before heading out for work. With Regina gone for a while, she starts getting too comfortable in the house. After cleaning, she pokes around the closet, tries on some clothes, sips wine, uses the jacuzzi, and tells herself it's fine. Wayne, a guy from the app, texts her, and she invites him over, claiming it's her dad's place. Once he arrives, she doubles down on the lie, says she's in college, used to spend Thanksgiving with her ex and his niece, but now she's alone. Things are going smoothly until Regina returns early, and the guy bolts out the back. The woman looks wrecked and notices how Alex drank her expensive wine, but doesn't comment, just breaks down. After several failed IVF rounds and finally hiring a surrogate, James dropped the divorce bombshell on the way to dinner. Alex listens and comforts her, and before she leaves, Regina hands her far more than she earned, gives her the pie, and says she can go. Back home, the weight of what she's seen pushes her to finally write again. The next morning, she picks up Maddie. Sean mentions he thought she might have shown up for dinner, but she says her evening turned out just fine. This time, she wants to start being honest with their daughter about what's really happening between her parents. She takes the little one, then heads out. She spends a good day with Maddie and tries calling in sick, but Yolanda isn't having it. She gives her two choices to either show up or quit. On her way out, she asks Luis to check the walls in her room because the cold's been causing mold, and it's already affecting Maddie. At the daycare, Rose reminds her about the overdue payment. She promises to sort it out soon, but that's the same thing she always says. Now, back in the car, she pounds the steering wheel in frustration. She heads to work with her colleague, and when they arrive at the house, they both notice things that feel off, especially the room that used to belong to Barefoot Billy, which has a lock on the outside like someone was keeping him in. The whole place feels wrong, but they press on, and while cleaning, Alex gets a notification from the daycare. Maddie's fever has gotten worse, and since they couldn't reach her, Sean gave Alex's dad permission to pick her up. She drops everything and bolts. She gets to her dad's and finds her kid already sleeping, having been looked after. Her dad and Charlene are warm with her, even suggesting Maddie stay the night since the daycare has requested a 24-hour gap. Alex hasn't always felt welcome there, and she blames her mom for that, but she thanks them for helping and takes her daughter home. She drives straight to Sean's job and warns him never to call her dad again, though he insists the man is good for Maddie and wants to be involved. She asks if he can keep the kid the next day while she works, but he's pulling doubles and can't help. She tries suggesting ways they could split the day, but he's not interested, so she leaves. That night, she watches a news story about Barefoot Billy, who's now a known kid burglar who cases homes before hitting them. That night, as the temperature drops, Maddie's cough gets worse. By morning, she takes her to a doctor who confirms the mold situation is a real threat to her health. With no other option, she accepts her dad's earlier offer. Hank and Charlene welcome Maddie with open arms, and before she leaves, her dad apologizes for turning her away the last time she was homeless. He even invites her to stay there until her place is safe. She agrees, then heads to work. While cleaning, she notices movement in the nearby woods and goes to check, but finds nothing. Kelly calls her to see a locked crawl space, and they pry it open, and Alex goes in, but the door slams shut behind her. In the dark, she starts to panic, flooded by flashbacks, and the anxiety overwhelms her until the other woman gets the door open again. Still shaken, she realizes something might have happened to her mom.
I need to find my mom.
She starts checking around, but everywhere she asks, she's told Paula hasn't been seen, and that only worsens her worry. She runs into Danielle, who now pretends she doesn't know her, with her husband beside her. Alex goes to Denise for help on behalf of Danielle, but there's nothing she can do either. She's angry at first, until she's made to understand why they can't get involved. Back at her dad's, she sleeps and dreams she's Barefoot Billy. When she wakes, she grabs a snack in the kitchen and talks with her dad, asking about the divorce. He's honest, saying Paula was tough and that he has always been scared of her.
I was afraid of your mother back then.
Later, she returns to the crawl space, and as soon as she steps in, the full memory floods back. Her dad had hit Paula, and that was the final straw that made her mom leave him for good. She storms out, grabs Maddie from her dad's, and heads straight to the campground. She tries entering Paula's camper, but the woman suddenly appears. Alex hugs her tight, asking where she's been. Paula says she was away on holiday with Basil and that they got married. Alex is stunned. She's always thought Basil was way too young and some other things she doesn't say. She confronts her mom about hiding Hank's abuse, but Paula shrugs it off as she's always preferred to focus on the positives and ignore the rest. She signs up for therapy, where Denise teaches them a grounding technique for staying calm through panic, and afterward, she heads straight to social welfare to check her housing status, only to hear the wait list hasn't budged. She's furious because what little money she has can't cover food, rent, or daycare, and going back to the campers is like walking into chaos. Paula never lets her sleep, always dragging her into those wild healing routines. Someone at the office mentions she could get housing faster with a TBRA voucher, but only if a landlord agrees to take it. So she starts going door to door, explaining the program, but no one even listens before turning her away. When she stops at daycare, Rose isn't there, and the new guy hands her the wrong child, triggering a full-blown panic. After a tense search, they find Maddie curled up asleep in a closet. Later that day, she meets Nate at the playground and tells him everything that's been eating at her. She lets Maddie visit her father, but when she walks in, she finds Hank and Sean sharing pie. It doesn't sit right, though her dad calmly says they've been attending the same therapy group and sometimes hang out after. She's not buying it, but once he leaves, Sean explains he's been confronting his childhood, how he started drinking at 9, and she listens, even comforts him, though she can't help thinking it's all a little late. Still stuck without a home, she returns to the camper, only for Paula to announce she wants them out, says they're ruining her honeymoon and need to make space for her and Basil's sex life. So she parks the car somewhere quiet and sleeps inside with her daughter. After the daycare mess, she pulls Maddie out and checks out another center Nate mentioned, but they won't cut tuition without proof she lives nearby. So she circles back to landlords, pleading for someone to accept her voucher, but again, no one will. At Regina's, the house is off the market, and she's now setting up a nursery post-divorce. While helping out, they talk, and Regina mentions she needs a live-in nanny. She jumps on it, offers to work for free in exchange for just shelter, but the woman says no, and when she asks to use it for daycare paperwork, Regina warns her not to try anything shady. Eventually, she finds a spot in the right area, and though the landlord, Vivian, rejects the voucher, she offers to do yard work in exchange for part of the rent. Vivian pauses, then agrees, and hands her the key.
I can make your yard look like fucking Versailles by spring.
She heads to her mother's to pack, only to find Basil has put a "for rent" sign on her mom's home, the one they ditched for the camper. She brushes it off with excuses, as always. For Maddie's birthday, Vivian lets her host a small party in the yard. Everyone comes, including Nate, but when Sean shows up late with a new girlfriend, things blow up. She snaps, but he fires back, pointing out she brought someone too. She shoots back that Nate's not her man. But before things escalate, Paula crashes the party and shifts the mood. They wrap it up soon after. The next morning, there's banging at the door. Vivian is furious because Sean somehow stayed the night at their place and wrecked the place. She shoves him out while he mumbles half-hearted apologies, and though she tries to clean up the mess, it's too late. Vivian kicks her out, so she grabs her things and heads to Nate's. With everything crashing around her, the young mom starts hunting for jobs herself and finally lands one. Later that day, she heads to the ex's place to collect her mother's mortgage documents since she suspects Basil's behind something shady. The man ran off with the camper and left the older woman homeless too. Still at his place, she doesn't even bother confronting Sean properly since she's still bitter about losing her apartment because of him. He offers to sleep in the car while she and the child sleep in the house, but she's firm that she's never spending another night under his roof. He seems remorseful and wants to fix things, but she's not ready to forget everything he put her through. She eventually gets her hands on a file and convinces her mom to come with her to the bank, hoping to pull the mortgage records. But after a long search, the banker finds nothing under Paula's name. That's when the woman bursts out laughing and admits they're in the wrong bank entirely. Furious, the daughter storms out. They return to Nate's place and join him for dinner. Alex is stunned to learn the older woman's already claimed the garage as her painting space. And while they eat, she keeps picturing Nate shirtless and catching herself flirting in her head. Not long after, she actually walks in on him with no shirt, and the moment gets awkward fast. Work helps her get her groove back, and she begins pouring everything she feels into her writing. One evening, while heading to the house that her mom owns, the older woman suggests giving Nate a chance, but the younger lady shuts it down. She says men like him are built for forever, and she's not looking for anything that permanent. The damage from Sean still lingers too much. They arrive and try to reclaim the house, but the man inside refuses, claiming he's still paying rent to Basil and has the lease document as proof. Later that night, while the older woman paints, Nate chats with the daughter and learns she grew up in a broken home. He offers to help fix the property situation, but asks her out to dinner first, with someone watching the kids. She declines, saying she feels like a charity case and just can't see them becoming a thing. That's when headlights approach. It's Sean, and he wants to talk. Tension sparks between the two men, with the visitor acting territorial, but he reveals he's found the mortgage papers and discovered they've been tampered with, which is why he came over. The daughter and her ex try explaining it to the artist, but she keeps defending Basil, even blaming her own daughter's behavior for scaring the man off. They manage to track him by phone and find he's at a casino, so all three head there, while the older woman rambles on, clearly high again. They spot Basil, and the woman quickly catches that he's dropped his usual Australian accent, finally proving her daughter was right, that he's not who he claimed to be. When pressed about the mortgage, he finally admits he used the money to feed his gambling addiction and pay off debts. The woman breaks down and is furious that the house her mother left her is now at risk, but the damage is already done.
The money's all gone. I'm gonna lose my house.
Later, Sean pulls into a gas station with barely any cash. While he's inside, the older woman keeps bickering, fishing for an "I told you so," but the daughter's just tired and wants her mother to get better. The older woman heads to use the restroom, and when Sean returns to the car, he gently touches her hand, trying to be supportive, but she immediately pulls away. Suddenly, they can't find the older woman. After a quick search, her daughter already knows where to look and leads Sean there. They find her smashing the glass door of her rented-out house, bleeding from a deep gash, and yelling that it belongs to her. Her daughter just stands there, frozen. The police show up to de-escalate and get her to a hospital, where doctors say she's sliced through a tendon and will need surgery. Through it all, her daughter doesn't speak a word, leaving Sean to handle the details. He brings her home while Nate watches the little one. When she finally opens up, she admits she's scared of becoming like her mom, scared of what comes next, and scared that she now has to take care of someone who has nothing left. Sean tells her she's not her mother, and that he trusts her not to drag their daughter through what Paula put them through. She apologizes, then leans in and kisses him. He kisses back, but pauses to be sure she actually wants it. When she says yes, he continues, and gently kisses his way down as she surrenders to the moment with soft moans.
Do you think I'm gonna scare Maddie like that?
No.
She wakes up in his arms, quickly pulls herself together, and they drive to Nate's, with the promise that after picking up Maddie, they could return to the hospital as a family, though she hesitates for a bit before letting him have his way. At Nate's, the man's been up all night waiting, and the moment she walks in, he subtly tears into her for not calling, not texting, not even checking in. He assumes she slept with her ex and doesn't wait for a denial. And when she doesn't argue, the silence says it all. Hurt and disappointed, he calmly tells her to leave because he can't stomach it, hands over the car keys for her to keep, but makes it clear she can't stay under his roof anymore. So she takes her kid in one car, while the other drives behind. And at the hospital, they're welcomed by the sound of her mom yelling at the DCR officer, trying to downplay everything that happened the night before. The lady evaluating her doesn't buy it. She lists out the hallucinations, the loud outbursts, and the bizarre statements, and says the only options are a temporary hold or someone willing to take full responsibility. She knows she can't, not now, so she agrees to let them keep her for a while. Back inside, the old woman doesn't even flinch, just carries on with her usual rambling that barely makes any sense to the person standing in front of her. She heads over to her ex's and finds her dad already there, now fully informed about everything going on with Paula, though she isn't too pleased he had to hear it from the one person she didn't want speaking on it. She sends the couple away and stays the night there, even though the man wants her in bed with him. She makes it clear they're not back together. This is temporary, just until she sorts out a place. Before they sleep, he shares that he's decided to quit bartending for good and start carpentry work, something steady, and that pays. After dropping Maddie off at daycare, she arrives at Regina's, where the new mom is battling with Leo, her newborn, and swears the boy only sleeps in the car. But somehow, she gets him to rest in the nursery, giving the tired mother a chance to do the same while she cleans the place up. When a call comes in from the writing school in Missoula she applied to, saying she can reapply, she quickly types up her sample using the house computer and sends it in, but forgets to take her journal when she leaves. She pays Paula a visit, only to hear the older woman declare that everyone in that facility is insane except her, and she wants out. Her daughter tries to explain that the decision wasn't hers alone, and that she needs to stay just a little longer, but that only fuels her rage as she's convinced she was betrayed and wants nothing more to do with her, so the staff gently walk the visitor out at her request. Back at the value maid's office, Yolanda fires her for taking on a job directly from Regina, without going through her, and just when she thinks it couldn't get worse, she receives a bill from the daycare.
You're fired.
That same day, she has to beg for money, just to get gas. Later, when he returns home, she tells him everything, and they try to figure out how to manage both their schedules since she needs to be out all week getting clients, and he has his own full-time apprenticeship now. He suggests her dad again, but that's immediately shut down as there's no way she's ever letting Maddie stay with Hank. She begins putting up handmade flyers for her cleaning service while still trying to fix things with her mom, but the old woman keeps brushing her off like she's nothing. She's desperate for a breakthrough, for something to give. He comes back from work, changes out of his clothes, and puts on the same bartender uniform he promised to drop. They try to map out how to make the most of their low income, with her especially needing minutes on her phone to get client calls, but he brushes it off and tells her it's pointless since she barely gets any. When her dad shows up, he finally does what she's been waiting for. He tells the man to leave, that he's not welcome. And after shutting the door, he walks back in, and she hugs him tight, then kisses him. Just then, Regina calls, yelling about a missed shift. But once she explains her situation, she's offered a better job with good pay and a ferry pass. Feeling a bit hopeful, she tries to check in on her mom again, only to find that Basil showed up, gave the required details, and took her home, since technically, they're still married. At a friend's gathering, she borrows an iPad to print the ferry pass and finds out that Missoula finally accepted her and offered her a scholarship. But when Sean finds out, he completely loses it. He screams, lashes out, and says all he's ever done is try to be a better man for her, and all she's ever wanted was to run.
I thought we were building something together as a family.
The next morning, her car is gone, and when she asks about it, he casually says he gave it back to Nate, then starts yelling again before storming off. She just stands there numb while he disappears down the road, already slipping back into old habits, and she starts sinking too. Regina gets Sean's address from Yolanda and shows up at the house, where he answers the door with his usual coldness. While Alex just sits there, withdrawn and quiet, weighed down by everything going on, the two at the entrance go back and forth. Regina wants to hand the journal to her directly, but Sean insists she leave. Eventually, the woman gives up and walks away, though not before exchanging a long, quiet glance with Alex through the window. Alex then walks over to Sean to collect her journal herself, but he shuts her down rudely and warns her not to keep giving people his address. He also scolds her for letting their daughter stay in pajamas that late in the day, then he storms off to work. Later, he returns with a pack of drinks and Hank, who brings food. Alex refuses to eat, but Sean gives her that sharp look and forces her to sit while Hank watches silently. She barely has anything left in her. No peace, no comfort, no real support. Sean soon develops a pattern of coming home very late, sometimes with a different woman for the night, making things even worse for her. Then one night, he comes back with bad news that he's been fired. He expects sympathy, but she's more concerned about how Maddie will eat, and that sets him off. He hurls a glass across the room, shattering it against the wall before storming out. Shaken, she immediately starts searching for her daughter and finds her hiding in the cupboard, which instantly takes her back to her childhood of watching her younger self hide there during Hank's worst moments. The sight terrifies her, and she knows she can't stay any longer. She finally makes her move while Sean's away, leaving with nothing. She borrows a stranger's phone to call Regina, asking for help getting to Denise's shelter. Though Regina offers to take her in herself, Alex declines, saying the shelter is where she needs to be. Denise receives her warmly, gives her and Maddie fresh clothes, helps her clean up, and even provides a phone. Alex uses the phone to call her mom, then reaches out to Regina again, this time just needing someone to talk to. Regina invites her out to lunch, but the upscale restaurant feels out of place, so they take a walk instead. During their conversation, Regina brings up how much she enjoyed reading her book, and Alex admits she used her laptop to apply for a college scholarship, which is why she left that note in her office. Impressed, Regina encourages her and asks more, and Alex explains that the real problem is Sean, since they still share custody. Hearing this, Regina promises to loop in a family law colleague who can help for free. Alex starts making calls to push her college application forward, and when she finally checks her mailbox, she responds to a woman offering cleaning work for more hours and less pay, but she accepts anyway. She gets the job done and does it well, and in return, the woman offers to recommend her to others, thanking her for being kind and dependable. Before long, Alex is getting steady requests and manages to save up some money. She keeps checking on her scholarship progress, looking into student loans, housing options, and every other piece of the puzzle. Eventually, she saves enough to buy a second-hand car, and the first place she drives to is Fisher's Island to see Regina. Regina's friend, also a lawyer, walks her through the legal process required to relocate to Montana for school, warning that things might drag if Sean objects, but promising that her freedom will come, just not overnight. Next, she goes to see her mom, who's working at a market stall under her new partner, a man who barely notices her and keeps ordering Paula around. Her mother is still upset over their last encounter, but with enough gentle push, she agrees to a small hangout. When Alex meets Sean at a cafe to hand him the notice of relocation, he nearly snaps, refusing to let her take Maddie that far away. She warns him that she has a good lawyer now, and that going through court will only drag things out for him, but he'd rather take that route than give in. Afterward, she meets her mom over drinks and chips, where Paula talks non-stop about Micah and how she's met so many sculptors and artists through him who feel like family. She claims to be taking her time this time around after what happened with Basil, who she says she only used to get out of the facility. Alex eventually tells her about the Montana move, and Paula beams with pride. even announcing it to the entire bar. But on their way out, Alex learns her mom lied about having a place to sleep, as she's been living in her car. It's already dawn when she quietly watches her mom wake up inside the car and drift off to the beach side to cool off. Later, she attends the support group Denise had introduced her to, and when it's her turn to speak, she gets a chance to explain what writing truly means to her, how putting thoughts to paper feels like the one place where she can be completely honest, where there's no right or wrong, just truth. After the session, she pulls Denise aside and asks if there's any way her mom could be allowed to visit, even though she's well aware of the rules. Denise, of course, says no, though she tries to help by suggesting a few government programs her mom might qualify for. But knowing Paula would never go for any of that, she just quietly lets the idea drop. She finds her mom still sitting by the water and offers her the chance to come with them to Montana and start over since she's got no real job or home at this point, but Paula turns it down without hesitation. She says she wasn't born to be boring.
Because I'm not boring?
And reminds her that no woman in their maternal line has ever had to move out, and she'd like to keep it that way.
The Langley women are here.
Noticing the cast already ripped off her wrist before it's time, she urges the older woman to show up for the doctor's appointment, not because she expects change, but just so she won't have to keep worrying too much once she leaves. The lawyer calls to update her on the progress in court, and she's relieved to hear that things are going well. She goes to find her mom afterward, especially after being stood up at the doctor's, but Paula, as usual, would rather chase after Micah and stay busy with work than bother about her own health. While she's trying to convince her to come along, Tara's call comes through. The case with Sean has taken a turn as he's objected to the relocation and pushed back on the ex parte motion, arguing that there's no evidence or witness to support any claims of abuse. Tara reassures her that they still have time to build something solid, though that would mean delaying her admission into Missoula, and if Sean wins, she loses the right to leave town with Maddie. She walks over to the park where her mom now spends the night and asks if she can supervise Maddie's visit with Sean, just like the court asked. And while the older woman agrees, they still manage to argue about everything else first. Paula refuses to admit she's homeless, insisting she only sleeps at the park sometimes to get away from the noise in her supposed home. When Alex brings up the missed doctor's appointment, she brushes it aside again, but the younger woman doesn't back down and finally makes her agree to attend. She takes her daughter to the park, and a few minutes after Paula shows up, Sean arrives too, yelling at them from a distance due to the restraining order still in effect. She walks away from the scene and heads off to meet her dad. She meets her dad, hoping he'll agree to write a testimonial, just something to confirm that he once witnessed Sean's abuse, but instead the man ends up defending the guy. He insists Sean isn't a bad person, and even suggests she should have been there for him when things got hard. When she brings up how he used to hurt Paula, he shrugs it off like he doesn't remember, and flat out refuses to help. She doesn't argue, just lets a tear fall before quietly walking out. Later on at group class, everyone's sharing stories about their happiest day, and since she's the one running the session, she gently makes sure each person participates. That's when her mom walks in, looking shaken with the kid in tow. Clearly something's happened, but instead of explaining, the older woman just says Sean wants to speak with her. She goes to meet him and finds a different man. He's not defensive or angry this time, just tired. Something happened at the park. Maddie didn't want to stop swinging and kept going against him until he snapped. He didn't hit her, but he scared her, and worse, his first instinct was to go look for a drink and leave her there. He admits Paula showing up was the only thing that stopped him. With all that in mind, he says he's done fighting, and he's handing over full custody because deep down, he knows he's not stable enough. She thanks him, and without saying much more, he drives off.
Signing over full custody to you.
Back at the support group, Paula takes a seat like she's one of the regulars and does her usual rambling until it's time to go. Later, the two end up spending time together at the beach again, and Alex asks what her happiest day was. Paula doesn't even think too hard about it as she smiles and says it was the day she grabbed her and ran away from Hank. She then asks if that offer to move to Montana still stands, and when her daughter nods with a grin, she says she'd absolutely love that.
Do you want to tell me your happiest day?
We left your dad's in such a panic.
You got me away from Dad and you never went back to him.
The next stop is Sean's place, where she comes to pick up Maddie's things. It's quiet, not tense, just sad. They stand there for a moment, both realizing how far they've fallen from how things began. He finally speaks up and says he'll miss his daughter more than anything. She doesn't hold him back, just reminds him he can always come see her whenever he wants before heading out. Before leaving town, she stops by Fisher Island to thank Regina for being a true friend. She lets her know she's heading out, and the two share a warm goodbye. neither of them able to stop smiling. She makes one last trip to her mom's place to take her along, but finds her painting quietly in the yard. She's changed her mind again. Micah kicked his wife out, and for the first time, she spent the night in his arms. She wants to see what comes of it, and even though the news stings, Alex doesn't argue. They hug for a long time and tell each other how much love is still there before she gets in the car and drives off. As she makes her way to Missoula, her last session plays in the background, and when asked what her happiest day would be, she says it's the day she'll finally leave town with her daughter to start the kind of life they both deserve. She signs out officially, looking back at everything it took to get here. 338 toilets cleaned, 7 types of government aid, 1 night on the floor of a ferry station, 9 different moves, and all of it done while raising a 3-year-old.
We didn't hear your happiest day. My happiest day hasn't happened yet. I'm gonna drive the fuck out of this town.
In Montana, they arrive at the summit of Sentinel Mountain, and she stands there with her kid, just taking it all in, because no matter how steep the climb was, this moment makes it all worth it. Her daughter is everything, and now, life finally feels like it's theirs.
I'm gonna tell her that the M stands for Maddie, that this whole new world is for her.